Welcome back to the Blindsiders. I'm Ben, back here with Dylan and Brian to talk about episode 6 of Survivor 48. And boys, you guys missed last week. You guys were dodging me.
Yes.
Yeah. Congratulations. You won the draft.
Finally. First season in 8 seasons.
Really poor showing by Dylan and I this season. I guess silver lining, not my worst showing. Zach helped me with that. But to anybody who watches, you can rest assured that we're not spoiled, or we wouldn't be picking pre-merge boots for 2/3 of our winner picks.
Yeah, I wish I went with my heart originally and picked Kyle like I wanted to, but instead I went with like what my random draw out of a hat was, which was dumb because those first 2 picks of mine were both the first 2 out. So I think in spirit I had a good pick of Kyle, and then I went rogue right before we picked. So that's
for me, my other one that I was considering was Thomas, which would have been worse. So I guess I'll just reel off this season.
Yeah, that is funny that both of you guys had like backup picks and they also went out.
And for me at least, it looked like smooth sailing. Before that swap, I was like, damn, my winner pick, great position. Thomas and her are running the tribe, and then it all just went to heck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Ben. Yeah. It's even the teams that were bottom of the barrel in the league eventually win a Super Bowl. So
I'm still waiting for the Dolphins to win the Super Bowl, so I don't know about that.
I don't think I've won since we've done this podcast. I don't think any of my picks have been the winning.
They have to have, because Brian definitely hasn't won every season, and I don't think I've won any except for now.
We'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, Brian has definitely won the most for sure.
Mm-hmm. Also trying new lighting.
I think you won 42, right, with Roxroy, I think, technically.
I don't know, did I?
Yeah.
Well, Zach went out second, but technically first. So
yeah, and then I believe I picked
Chanel.
Chanel, I think. Yeah. So I think you
definitely
won 42, even though it was like 10th place or something like that.
Yeah, I don't love Roxroy being my one winning pick.
You probably had 1 or 2 others.
Yeah.
Someone who's a big fan of us, go back, tally it up for us.
Yeah, I think I remember most of mine. I think I don't remember yours, guys, except for the notable ones. So we have this mergatory. I guess I'm happy they're sticking with what they did last season, which was just having it be a normal merge, but then like not call it the merge, to make sure that like Jeff feels like he's doing something special.
Yeah, it's been a bad week, I feel like, for Jeff, not getting his way at all from what I've heard about the various casting rumors and people getting cut. So like, at least they're letting Jeff have this illusion of being in charge.
I think Jeff will be very happy with the cast he gets. I don't believe these rumors at all. I'm all rumored out already for 50, honestly.
It's hardly even started, Dylan.
I'm the one regularly sending every bit of rumor I get to you guys in the group chat. Like the second anybody posts anything on any social media, I immediately screenshot it.
Yeah, this is your first experience with a Survivor returning player season, and like the lead up to that, where everyone is just trying to figure out who's on the cast.
I feel very, very confident Jerry is in, because she was at a Survivor event apparently recently. I feel very confident. First podcast to report it, Jerry is playing in season 50.
Hopefully we won't hurt her chances by reporting early, but that would be fantastic. But anyways, back to the Survivor Mergatory. I still hate it. It's still dumb as shit.
Yeah.
Just give them all buffs, Jeff. What are you doing?
There's no reason for it. We've discussed this before every season, pretty much. It's dumb. Yeah. And they keep doing it. So that's where we're at. I agree. Very dumb. I'm fine with Charity not being on the jury, though.
Also, Ben called it. And I mean, like, I think we all probably have the feeling, but like Ben, you planted the flag last week when you were
Mhm.
with Jack, which thank you to Jack for filling in for us.
Mhm.
We were like, if there's ever been a Survivor Mergatory boot, it's Charity based on the edit she's been getting, and you were right. They got her.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna like toot my horn too hard. I think that was pretty obvious.
She also had that very weird post about Eva where everybody's praising Eva, and she's like, "Oh yeah, Eva, I hugged you even though like you hate women and you were out to get me from day one and all that." Like,
Mhm.
felt pretty. Yeah, I felt pretty confident she was going home this week or next.
Yeah,
That was good to like, what is it? Not even a compliment sandwich, but like I hate you compliment, I hate you sandwich.
It was a very strange, like, hey, look at me post.
Yeah, and I could tell too, like she had a post about getting cavities from the fruit and made like a snide remark about it. I was like, they do not like each other. Like, I don't feel like the cast really likes her. Somebody said like I heard you were like close to Charity to David on Twitter or like something, or like I had her as a winning pick, and he was like, that sucks for you or something. Like it was just like so many bad vibes toward Charity. So it just didn't feel like good things were gonna happen with her.
This cast specifically seems like that there's a lot of postseason beef that's kind of been going on like Twitter and whatnot. This is Charity's exact post. She posted a screenshot of everybody hugging, and just know, even when you don't trust me, don't work with women and call me not genuine, I'm gonna still be the first to come hold you and tell you I'm so proud of you. You did it, girl. And then it's 100% myself out there.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, I don't think you can call that backhanded. I feel like that's front-handed.
Yeah, just straight up. Yeah, I think anytime we get casts being like, we're gonna play with honor and integrity, those are the casts that hate each other at the end of the season. Like, I think if we go back and like really parse that out, it would prove true, because like Survivor's not about honor and integrity. I don't really know how else to put that,
I do wish there would be like an NDA or something for the people to stop posting until you're officially like booted or something like that, or the season's over. Because what's good, not exactly like it's breaking news that Charity was probably not winning this season, but once I saw that post, it felt pretty obvious that she was not. I mean, we said it together; she was not going to last long.
Yeah, Jeff Probst used to have them locked down, but they've gotten lenient. How much is surprising, because like at one point, a person posted a photo with another person.
Justice for Alec Merlino, yeah.
Yeah, I got banned from the reunion. Now people are posting like, I would say, more egregious things.
Yeah, way more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Alex post like barely spoil anything. Like it's spoiled that like him and Kara probably were both making the merge, but like that's it.
Yeah, and like they were with each other the whole game, so it's like, oh, they got close, shocking. But he got to be on White Lotus, so he really won, honestly.
Yeah. I mean that's like the ultimate. Talk about all these David versus Goliath people who might be back on 50. The real the real winning play for being on David versus Goliath was just like being able to be an extra on an HBO show.
Yeah,
honestly, yes.
That does seem like the season that's had the most longevity in like doing something recently is thanks to White Lotus.
Yeah, owe it all to Mike White having one of the most popular shows on TV.
I think that's what also makes David vs. Goliath, like going back and rewatching it, even more fun, is kind of like knowing what that kind of blossomed into. And I am like, I hate the rumors, but not to keep talking about them. I feel like Angelina would be such a great and obvious person to come back 50. Fingers crossed.
Angelina's been my like one with a bullet since David vs. Goliath ended for who I want to come back from like the last 5 to 10 years. So.
Yeah, no, agreed. She would be really great. But I did see a fun fact about the Mergatory, and it was in the 2 years they've done this, 100% of the immunity challenge have been won by a guy named Kyle. That's interesting. That's something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All
Yeah,
right.
credit Mike Bloom for that one.
All right. Let's move on from that.
Yeah, I guess
Hopefully-
what do you guys think of the advantage scene?
Say springing out of that jungle like a
That was
lion
awesome.
was.
Yeah, it's a fun gift. I think we're gonna get from that probably.
She would came out because I just assumed the way Charity was talking about Say was on the opposite side, and then when you say come in, see her come in off screen, that was great. I still find myself, a Say truthist. I think that she buries her own, she digs her own grave a lot. I think she had the horrible misfortune of being placed and trusting Cedric, being on the same tribe with Cedric and trusting him, who I think is probably the most pathetic player on this season by far. So I do have some sympathy for Say. I am glad that she stayed in it because of stuff like this. I think Say, I want someone to fill that villain role, and even though Say isn't, the prototypical villain that we get in Survivor, I'm enjoying her this season. For stuff like that. I don't know how much longer the fun is going to last, but I'm glad we got some of that in this episode.
Yeah, there was a moment where I thought Say was going in this episode, and I was really sad. So I'm happy she's here. I've seen someone already make a meme like me when I hear there's one donut left in the break room from that GIF, which was great. And yeah, no, I need Say to stay in as long as possible. Throwing a vote on Cedric for seemingly no reason in a really, really intense, like close vote. Awesome stuff. Love that. Also, I saw somebody last week tweeted, sorry, I have so much from missing one show that I have to say, but someone's like, I can't believe it's coming down to this guy making a decision. And it was just a picture of RuPaul. Cedric.
Yeah, I guess to kind of blend last week into this week too, Cedric is just I have not felt disdain for a player like I have for Cedric, because I think like the messiness really hasn't even been entertaining. It's become so questionable why he does things, and he's just so useless in challenges when it comes to physical. It's kind of like, I don't know. I feel like it's like a fish out of a boat, a fish out of the water right now in the boat, and he's just flopping around, just praying he can get back into the water. That's kind of how I feel about Cedric right now. I think he's a very, very frustrating player to watch, and like that tribal, and you mix it with somebody losing their vote. I think it culminates to like it sucks. It's bad gameplay. It's the game forcing itself too much upon these players, taking away their votes, which we've discussed, just in length, just way too much. That's kind of my thoughts on Cedric and everything that kind of happened last week, is that it stunk. Like it wasn't even like a satisfying blindside. It stunk from beginning to end.
Yeah, I mean, I gave my thoughts last week, but I was hoping for more of an explanation at the start of this episode. We got some, but like the explanation wasn't really like satisfying to me, because like it still doesn't really make a lot of sense for Cedric or for Chrissy to have done that. Chrissy especially, I think I think because Cedric has been tied up in so much like dumb emotional decisions, like he's the one getting the most focus from people. But for me, it still makes even less sense for Chrissy to have done that. Like if you're Chrissy and Cedric comes to you at the last second, like literally as you're leaving to go to tribal council and says, hey, Bianca's lying, she doesn't have a vote, you should vote for her with me, right? Like I'm sitting there and I'm like, wait, well, if Bianca doesn't have a vote and I vote for her and I can't tell Mitch and Mitch votes for Say, well, now both Cedric and Say could just vote for me and I'm out 2-on-1, right? Like you're just throwing away all of your agency on a whim with last minute information from a guy that you're like tentatively not necessarily fully trusting, as opposed to just voting out Say.
Unless Siva just strongly dislikes Mitch, like I don't understand that move either. Because we were not sold really on Cedric and Chrissy like being close, or like I think we had that one scene last week where it was them talking and like kind of like agreeing to work together. But I thought that Bianca's scene was like seemed so genuine, and given, you know, in hindsight, it was obviously like she probably shouldn't have done that. But I think like in 95% of the scenarios, she did do the right thing, which was kind of like playing both the upcoming tribal as well as also trying not to piss off everybody who you're going to try to work with. I don't think you can play Survivor with the mindset that the merge is coming, even though like if you actually like meta do know that it's coming. I don't think you could play Survivor that way. I think it kind of sucks to do that, because also what if that inevitable twist eventually comes where like, oh, we're not merging here, we're going to merge, you know, in 2 or 3 more tribals. I think Bianca did the right thing, and I think that she trusted a bad player who, like, I don't know, I just don't understand Cedric's rationale anymore. And obviously clearly like Chrissy, they seem so betrayed by the fact that she didn't have a vote and that didn't tell these people that she had barely worked with. I didn't buy it, and I think that still trying to go after Say, still not trusting Say. I think it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I said it last week too, like they're bottom of the merge when they got there, which they are now. And then they seemingly they're not trying to climb their way out now. They're going to be content with, and I mean Cedric and Chrissy, they're going to be content kind of being like the bottom feeders until it becomes time for them to be cut loose. And once again, I think that's really stinky. So, yeah, Chrissy and Cedric, I agree. I had higher hopes for Chrissy, but I think we're kind of seeing the max limit of her gameplay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think I said it last week too, right? I said 5 people went into tribal council, and I think all of them played it incorrectly.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a rare situation where literally every single person plays badly.
I do wonder if Cedric can get some sort of record of voting, of how many people he has voted for in one season. Because now he's voted for Mary once, I think, right?
He's voted for all 5 of the original Vula people other than himself, and now he's also voted for Charity. And he also voted for Bianca, so that's 7, I think.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of people at this point in the game.
Yeah.
And once again, it'd be one thing if the chaos paid off and it was like super entertaining, but I just find myself kind of like slumping in my chair when I realize that like another vote is up to Cedric, because it just does not feel, it doesn't feel like good. You know what I mean? I'm like this guy who's way over his head once again has another vote left with him. And like so many other situations, you'd be like, wow, this person's playing like a great game with like they're constantly the deciding factor in all these votes and everybody's coming to him. But that's just like not the case with Cedric here.
I'm curious what you guys think, because the comparison I made last week when talking about this with Cedric was I compared him to somebody who also is in the rumor mill for potentially for Survivor 50, Tai Trang. I think that's like not like a super immediately obvious comparison, but I think it makes sense to me at least. I don't know if you guys have an opinion on that.
Don't you ever say that again.
Are you a big Tai fan?
Don't you ever besmirch Tai like that to me.
But Tai is fine. They're literally the same type of player. They're both like socially really good to the point where they're never targeted, but they're strategic messes, and they are often put into a situation where they're the ones making strategic decisions, but they make like really irrational and emotional decisions. Like they're the same player. I'm sorry.
Yeah, when you spell it out like that and you use like your frontal cortex to think about it, sure, yeah, it makes sense. But when you use your love and your unwavering support for a player, Ty is 10 times the player Cedric is.
So if Cedric like loved animals, is that the difference for you?
Yeah, I guess like let's get a chicken on there that everybody wants to kill. I think that is a good a good way to find out. I think Cedric would like accidentally cut its head off. That's like kind of like I think that's what would happen.
Okay, so say we come next week and then Cedric is saving Mark the Chicken Jr. And are you on board now?
Yeah, that would be something that kind of makes me wonder too. Do we know if Mark is still alive?
I doubt it.
I don't know what
I don't know how long chickens live, Al.
The guy got on the way out of tribal. So.
Yeah, I think like they threw him in the final tribal council fire, and they had fried chicken.
No, 5 to 10 years. Mark is cooked.
Yeah,
well, literally,
it's over. It's over.
Yeah, this was 9 years ago. Probably 10 actually with filming because it filmed first in that cycle as we've talked about. So yeah, definitely dead.
It's an interesting comparison. I found Ty's gameplay like way more likable than Cedric's. I think like Ty, and maybe it's because I wasn't watching live. I watched.
Did you watch Game Changers?
Yep.
Oh man, I hated him so much on that season.
I'm like, I don't have like great recollection of Game Changers with Ty, but in Kyle Rung, he was probably my top 3 favorite players that season. I would kind of, not to get on our side tangent, I would love to see him back from 50. I know a lot of people think they have kind of had their fill of Ty, which I also get that too, but I would love to see him back.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, maybe the reason it worked less poorly on Korong from like a TV perspective was the people that got like screwed over by his irrational decision making were like very unlikable and like were definitely the villains of the season. And so like you weren't that upset with him kind of just like randomly screwing them over for no reason because you're like, yeah, fuck them, fuck Scott and Jason. Like I don't care about, I don't really care if they lose because Ty is bad at Survivor.
I think Scott and Jason were also abusing their relationship with Ty at that point. So I supported his move when I watched it the first time. I'm a Ty truther once again.
Yeah, but I mean, it was bad gameplay on paper.
It's one of those things that's actually a season I'm really, really looking forward to getting back to rewatching because I think because those are one of the first ones I started watching when I started getting caught up there, and I think a lot of that knowledge is kind of fade away. So who knows? Maybe in my rewatch, which I will for sure see that before 50 airs, maybe I'll feel different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just can't stand him on Game Changers so much.
Yeah, on Game Changers, I can't come up with a defense for him. I did not like him on Game Changers either. He was like very frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel similarly about Cedric, but like Cedric has less of a presence, even though he's gone to so many tribal councils. And like, I'm more upset at the vote losing twist than I am at Cedric in the circumstances that annoying things have happened. So like, maybe if Cedric makes it all the way to the end of the game and continues to do stuff like this, then people like start randomly going out in ways that don't make sense, like for the next 4 or 5 episodes. Then maybe I will start getting the same level. But for right now, I'm not that upset about it.
For sure, the bigger problem at all of that is the vote being lost. Yeah.
All right.
At least everyone got to vote this episode.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, 13 of them. I guess what we want to talk about here, because there's like kind of multiple things kind of going on at once. We have this power, like strong people like with honor alliance that kind of forms. Whereas David says maybe finally maybe finally somebody who deserves it can win Survivor, or like one of the right people.
Finally, thank God. Thank God David's here to right the wrongs of the previous 47 seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, David. David's like, wait a minute, we've had how many women have won in a row? Hold on.
I'll not stand for this. Yeah. His favorite era is definitely the 30s. He's in the 40s.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Korong, David's one of the rare people who thinks Ty should have won that final 3.
Yeah, actually, Ty should have.
Yeah. So we get like kind of what I predicted was probably going to happen, which is like this, new Vula for plus Eva coming together, and then like David as well. It is very odd though, because like somehow Camilla just like didn't get like swept in, where it was like only the men plus Eva. even though like Camilla was a part of all of those conversations on Vula as well. But like, I mean, she's not an immediate target. She's probably better off not being in this alliance because she's able to play the middle a little bit and use Kyle as like a tool. So I don't know. We'll see.
I do wonder if there's a little animosity towards Camilla from them because I think she played them so perfectly during that idol play for Kyle that like they were going with Kyle instead of her in terms of who they were going to vote out. So maybe Joe and Shaheen took that the wrong way because obviously there was a lot of talk about integrity and being straight up with people in this episode because that is something I noticed as well. It does bode well for the whole like Kyle and Camilla kind of like incognito alliance they have going on, which, you know, there's a lot of smoke now with that. I feel like it's going to become a important factor down the road, which is pretty exciting. And obviously we got a lot of like, you know, we want to take this strong group to the end, which I'm all for that. I'm all for, you know, I told you I want these rock solid alliances. I don't buy it, particularly from Shaheen. I don't buy it that he's all in this alliance. I do buy it from Joe. Joe is definitely shaping up now for me to be an obvious winner coming out. I think Kyle is kind of growing into that too. Yeah, I think that's definitely a situation to watch for sure. Because I think like we're building up something there with Kyle and Camilla where that's going to pay off again. You know, and I do think that something is going to have to give eventually with this alliance. Although I do hope that group there, the group that we talked about 2 weeks ago, I do hope that they go really far because I think that they're probably the group that I'm rooting for the most at this point. But we've had other people start to come out too. Like I think it's great that Star is kind of starting to get a lot more airtime. I think it's after the first few episodes where she was by far kind of the quietest or the person that we spent the least amount of time with. I think she's kind of starting to shine a little bit too. So I don't know. Who knows? The edit has been funky for us in the past. So who knows what kind of tricks it's going to play on it. But I do feel like that alliance and everything with Camilla and Kyle is going to pay off down the road.
Yeah. Especially because we get like multiple check-ins with them where they're like kind of amazed at how they've kind of ended up in a really strong spot in the middle like fulcrum of the way the tribe is shaped out between this, you know, new alliance with the new Vula people and then also like the original Siva, which has obviously not stuck together because, you know, after Charity's going, but they still have a potential tie-in with people like Chrissy and Mitch if they need it. So yeah, I think that, you know, I really do think the Kyle and Camilla pair is going to go the distance.
Yeah, agreed. And as far as the alliance goes, I just hate it when people are like position themselves as the good guys on any of these shows. It's like, okay, yeah, you're super not self-interested in winning $1 million. Absolutely love it. I think you just get really gross and weird. One of my biggest pet peeves of Big Brother and Survivor.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, we're going all the way back to like the early Survivor seasons, like even just straight up in Borneo, and like Big Brother 2, like, and a lot of the early Big Brother seasons had the same kind of vibe. And it definitely melted away for the most part. You know, it's kind of sprung up now and then. You have like, you know, players like Coach trying to like sell a similar bill of goods that he's like playing honorably. And when that's not like really the case, it's very self-righteous. It really is, and it pretty much always will result in like the snakiest player amongst that alliance just like ending up being the one that comes out on top. And so you're not really proving anything. Usually, you're usually just like, you know, you usually just end up either elevating a player that's kind of just tricking you into like buying in, like a player like a Sophie, for instance, or you are, you know, doing what you would otherwise be doing as an alliance, and then just like retroactively, you know, making up excuses as to why the actions that you're taking to benefit the alliance, even if they are kind of sneaky and underhanded, are serving a greater good or whatever. Which is something that, again, we saw a lot in South Pacific, and with the family like coach cult. Praying
to God to like have forgiveness or permission to blindside Brandon Hance and sending him off on a potential life-altering moment. That was really good. That was some good stuff, Coach.
Yep. So I mean, look, that's like we've kind of seen the ultimate result of players kind of buying into that like kind of self-righteousness. So I don't think we'll reach that heights with this alliance, but I do think that we're probably looking at a situation where certain members of this alliance could get very annoying very fast.
Yeah, I'm pulling for Camilla and Kyle to usurp the power at some point and bring all the good people down.
It's tough for me because I still find myself heavily rooting for Joe. I like David too. That's good. Which I'm glad because sometimes when you get to this point in the season when you're only rooting for one or two people, especially once they go out, I feel like it kind of makes you lose a lot of interest with the season. So I do think it's good to have a large group of people left to root for. I put less emphasis on the good gameplay and more so that they want to play with all these physical players. Mm-hmm. So, like that's something we talked about too with like meat shields, especially of new Arab seasons, being ones that go out really quickly. But I think a lot of those times too that they were never really like great strategic players. I've had my praise for Jonathan before, but Jonathan wasn't this amazing strategic player. I think he was a little bit better than I thought he would have been for face value, but I don't know. I think like these bigger guys like David and Kyle and Joe and I haven't exactly been totally bought on board that Eva is like this like athletic like physical specimen. Like it's been talked about. I feel like we haven't really seen it yet. But we've had like some other impressive showing from women so far, and no, Cedric's the worst. Cedric's the worst physical player in the season by far for me. But I don't know. Yeah, it's every time you hear you have an alliance with a theme, it almost never works out in the long run. Whether it's an all girls alliance, or it's like the firefighter alliance, or the lawyer alliances, whatever you get, usually never works out. I do hope that this goes far. But like I kind of want that satisfactory blindside towards the end of the season because I think that's when it's kind of most satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, I think go ahead.
I was just saying what I really want is a Redemption Island style duel between Cedric and Brandon. Let's see who's the better challenge competitor.
Yeah. I do think not being tongue in cheek in this instance. I think that like this style of gameplay is a very natural reaction to a lot of like what we've seen happen in the new era in terms of like meta shifts, because like we have seen people like the winners primarily being players who focused on social relationships and weren't like necessarily like the strongest like from a strategic perspective. Or like they usually would have an ally who was kind of the one that was driving a lot of the strategy, and then they were able to win in an end game because they have the social bonds. Talking about like people like Kenzie or like a Jam or like Marianne was also pretty good strategically in the end game, but even like an Erica as well. Like these players who Gabler obviously to a degree. These players who are winning off of their personal relationships almost entirely and not really relying on like physical or strategic game. I think like even like looking at like Rachel is probably a standout the opposite direction where like she wins. She's obviously very good socially, but she also wins a lot of challenges. So it's kind of I think this refocusing for players like a Joe, like a David, even like a Kyle to a degree, makes sense because they're looking at the like current new era meta and being like, a player like me cannot win unless the status quo kind of changes a little bit. Yeah. So I have to be the one to make the change in the status quo.
Because I know I've talked about it. I think people are desperate for like that next superstar. I think you get that superstar from being someone that is both great in challenges and is good socially. You know, it doesn't have to be one. It doesn't have to be both. I think if you're amazing at one of the two, that's usually what helps you evolve into be one of these great players, like Suri, for example, where like obviously she's not a challenge beast, but her social game has just been so.
Whoa. How many pre-merge pre-merge tribal councils did she go to on Game Changers, Dylan?
Hey, fair enough.
Yeah. And then
what happened when she went to a tribal?
She never got voted out.
She never got voted out.
The go. That's why
she's the best to never win.
That's why. That's like, yeah. That kind of goes back into her just being like
the best to never win yet, Brian. We got Suri 5.0 coming up.
That's true.
another. We're just name dropping all the people who are going to get Survivor 50.
I think we need a someone who is divinely gifted in one of these places, I don't think you can be physical, not even necessarily anymore. I think you never could be like this massive physical player with no social skills. Like I don't necessarily think Survivor
never works out well.
So like, I think if we can get a player that's great socially and physically, I think that's kind of like what we're looking for in terms of like the next superstar. I think D is really the only one we've gotten as of late where like people think that she can kind of slot into like that, because I think if I remember, D won a good amount of challenges too, right?
I think she won 2 or 3 individual immunities. Yeah,
like towards the end at least. Like I think she was up there. So I we always go back to D. I think that D, even though I wasn't as high on D as the first time she won, I think when you go back and look at her now, I think she is the winner of the new era in terms of like the face of who the kind of player you want winning. So I don't know, maybe we can get that formed out of this. I think a player like Kyle kind of fits all those archetypes of like, he seems to be doing well socially. He's physically strapped. I think he's forming alliances with players outside of kind of this meathead alliance going on. I think that's smart from him. I think that he is kind of being set up to be that player for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think like when you were kind of describing what you were looking for, like I think Kim Stratton is probably the last one that really like fits the bill for me in terms of that.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of like dominating kind of all 3 elements of the game. Yeah, so I don't know if there's. I'm trying to think of one since Kim that's really kind of like checked every box.
Mean, when Kim won, she was like already in like the top tier. Like everyone was like, "Oh, this is like unicorn. Like we're not going to see a first-time player like Kim again." And
I think like maybe winners at War Tony, you could like have a conversation, because he did actually win, I think, 3 individual immunities in that season. Maybe like a Natalie Anderson, but I don't think Natalie Anderson was actually that strong in like a lot of the challenges. And in terms of like she was okay. I don't think she was like dominant. And then like I don't know who else in the 30s are you really gonna like point to and be like, this person dominated every aspect of the game front to back.
Which season did Kim win? One World?
One World, yeah.
Yeah, One World.
What season number was One World?
24.
24, yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Sorry.
I guess kind of thinking in the 30s. Yeah, I guess Tony's the obvious one to go to, especially with that fire making at the end. I think that was kind of like, I think that was probably the most impressive that of all that was just how intense that fire making challenge was. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to sit back and look, but I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I just don't think we've had like a dominant star winner really in the last like 10 years or so, other than Tony.
Yeah. So what do we think about this vote split at the tribal council?
I don't think it was intended. Well, I guess it might have been an intended vote split from a couple people.
I just mean like actually being like a close vote and having some drama.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was good. I mean, I came in expecting I came into the episode expecting Charity to go, and basically the entire episode front to back, like I never really like got away from that. so yeah.
On the face of this whole episode, I don't think I think this was towards the bottom end of episodes for this season. I think we put it next to, I think, what was it, episode 2 or 3, where we all kind of agreed it was the lame-o of the season to that point. Overall, I didn't really find this episode all that intriguing because it felt painfully obvious it was Say or Charity from pretty early on. In terms of a split, yeah, I'd have to assume our meathead righteous tribe kind of purposely split. But if I had to guess, Cedric, Chrissy, Mitch.
I think Chrissy actually voted for Charity when I looked at the end. The votes were like all over the place. Let me see if I can pull them up.
So
because it was very confusing when I was like looking at the vote.
So Say voted for Cedric.
Yes.
Surprisingly to me, but I guess I should have been that surprised
because
she was upset. Shaheen voted for Say, right?
So
yeah, I was like, what?
Yeah, so the votes for Charity were Star, Mary, Camilla, Joe, Chrissy, Cedric, and Kyle.
Okay. It almost feels like that might be an alliance that didn't get any like airtime.
Well, because like we have Eva, David, Mitch, Shaheen, and Charity, who were the 5 votes for Say. So the 4 votes that didn't go on Charity, besides Say and Charity, were Shaheen, Eva, David, and Mitch. 3 of those people are in that big alliance that we've kind of like been discussing. So maybe this was a deliberate vote split. And
yeah, it feels like something got left out.
Yeah, I think everyone except maybe Mitch was on board with Charity, and then the other 3, just like that kind of 5/6 person alliance, actually did end up splitting the votes to try to protect Eva.
And I think that's another kind of frustrating point when you get back to Cedric and Christy is like, what is the rationale and reasoning behind what they're doing at the moment? Because I given like it just seems like Charity just. I think the one thing you can say about Charity is she thought she had way more of a social standing in this game than she actually did. Excuse me. And so
you just never know till you go to tribal, right?
Yeah, I guess it's Chrissy now kind of like there were obviously we knew there was no like Siva strong. We knew that for a fact. I think it's allowed like Kyle and Camilla to kind of play multiple sides, but I never really bought in. Obviously, Chrissy, Mitch, and all them were going to stick together. I think that was like pretty obvious from what we've seen. I don't necessarily understand Chrissy that easily wanting Say out and then going and voting for Charity. It's I don't know. I'm really survived. Say is lasting as long as she is. I think it's like pretty obvious she, at least when she's looked at by the remaining people, she's kind of, a sitting duck. I kind of actually feel the same. I feel similarly about Mary too, where she's not getting a whole lot of screen time, and she's not really seeming like she might be the person that is a swing vote for a few votes and then is cut loose. But I'm really hoping they can both kind of find their footing. As a person that I'm kind of like a Say fan at this point. It's very clearly she's not going to get out of her own way. We're not getting, that Emily changing character and realization of like, oh, this is affecting my game. I need to change it. But I am kind of curious of how long she can actually last. I'm assuming like we may be back here next week talking about it was like, oh, we say it was obvious from the jump. So I don't know. Yeah, the voting didn't really make a lot of sense, but I think our lines we talked about, I think it's pretty obvious that they split. I don't think that they would go in that disorganized to start.
Yeah, it's hard to prognosticate for next week too, because just going from seeing 2 immunity necklaces in the promo, I assume we're splitting the group up into 2 tribes of 6 again. So who knows?
I didn't watch the promo, so that pisses me off.
Well, yeah, and then the other thing that was kind of focused on from the promo is this kind of like voiceover from Camilla in terms of like Camilla and Kyle potentially doing something against Shaheen. But obviously, like this is they'll frequently make things that out of thin air for the promo that don't actually end up being anything. So we'll see. Maybe there is going to be a Camilla Kyle coup on this big alliance, and Shaheen is going to be a target. Maybe it's completely fabricated and it's nothing.
I can already play out that Shaheen must like throw Camilla's name out there, like just to throw it out there, and then we get that one scene of Camilla saying, "And Shaheen's got to go," and that's like all we get for the rest of the episode.
Well, I think the line was like, we were going to frame Shaheen or something like that, as what the line that said in the promo.
My one concern about that is it seems like a move to make too early for our incognito alliance there. But I would need we'd have to see the context next week.
Let's not worry about it yet. We don't know.
This is just like, again, it's a promo. The next time on Survivor, like 90+% of the time is like deliberately misleading to try to like, create intrigue. So yeah, it's probably nothing.
Yeah. So anything else you guys want to touch on before we get on out of here?
No. I'm glad Say's still here. Like I said, overall, I didn't think it was that great of an episode. A good bridge episode to kind of get us into that funky merge, and then now we're fully merged. So no, I think Say. I understand the kind of the talk about Say potentially coming back for 50. Like I get the intrigue of having her continuing to come. I think Say is a player that, if you threw her in the older seasons, I think she'd be way more liked. I think like kind of her chaos, her unfortunately just her playstyle and her chaotic nature doesn't mix with new age Survivor and the way that these players are playing, especially in this righteous thing we have going on with everybody else. But yeah, it's weird because I find myself rooting for Say, and I almost know she has next to no chance of winning at this point. But I think I'm enjoying the ride. I think Say deserves a little bit more love. I think that she's someone that will have more game to play if she comes back again. So,
well, I mean, it's really, I mean, she can't. I don't think she can win at this point. She's on borrowed time. Like she's been on borrowed time for the whole season, and it's like at every subsequent episode, it's just like, wow, I can't believe Say is still here. Because like, look at her. She has her two original Vula people that she's with. One is somebody that she openly like distrusts over and over again, and who like constantly like leaves her out of information, or like puts her like kind of gambles with her life as like a game move, and who she voted for like no reason in this episode, just out of seemingly spite. And then her other Vula person that she's supposed to have this close alliance with is like telling people that she's like a gaslighting, manipulator behind her back. So it's like, who does she have? Like, who is going to go to bat for her when her name inevitably comes up again, and even as soon as next week?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and I think a lot of it had to do with her that she lined up with Tribe-wise at first. I think just anybody other than Cedric. I think if Cedric was a good player, he would have tried to reel in Say way more and like fed her information to wait to get to the merge. They kind of then use her both as a mole and as an easy shield. I think it kind of just goes back to the misplay of Cedric. One thing I saw on like Reddit was like Cedric is somebody who accidentally like stumbled into Survivor, was on like a family vacation or something, and now he's just playing the game.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think there's a lot of moving pieces here still. Like I don't love the 13-person merges, because like usually what ends up happening is what happened in this episode, which is they just try to get through a vote or two with consensus votes, because it's like way too many moving parts to try to control. And it takes until like final like 11 or 10 before like moves actually start getting made. So yeah, again, I agree with what Dylan said. It was an average episode. It was a bridge episode.
That's all right. They've earned the ability to have that once or two times this season, because we've been firing all cylinders all the other times. So
for sure. All right, Dylan, where can we find you online?
DJ Clubberlang on X, the Everything app, and on Twitch and on TikTok.
Awesome. Ben, same thing.
Yeah, I mean, my Twitter is still up here, even though I deleted my Twitter. You can find me there at Blue Sky, but I don't super use Blue Sky. I'll like go on there now and then and like, blast something off. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter/X at @TheFakeBMar. And then our main channel, Wiki and Everything, just put a video up today at the time of recording, yesterday at the time when this is released, it might come up pretty late, but just talking about how insufferable talking about video games online has become. We'll see. Hopefully people like that one. I had a short week. Was on vacation last week, got back a little late into the week, so it's scrambling for a video this week. So much more of an op-ed than like a specific thing, but I got some other ideas for more specific video game videos coming, and then Wicked Good Sports, got videos coming out there, and this is of course Better Radio, and also those Fake Nerds. Follow me there. I got videos. I'm gonna try to do a video like most days of the work week on there. So if you're into video game pop culture news, check that channel out. And other than that, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you all in the next.